tattooing, that was a way of rebelling against the system. Fuck the system, fuck everyone, fuck you cops too.
I was the first one waddling around with a big dirty M. I had mongrel mob, a couple of bulldogs on my face.
It was just part of the game. You're not allowed to tattoo. Oh, good. Now that just makes it more fun now. Hey, let's do something that we're not allowed to do. What are you going to do? Put me in jail?
Tattoos are an unmistakable mark of identity. In prison, they symbolise a sense of belonging and a desire to rebel against the system.
To not have tattoos in jail is abnormal. Now, if you want to fit in, then otherwise you're clean skin. And the only people who are clean skins in jails are child molesters, because they don't go to jail. Hey, and they come in once. So in a way, that's almost your badge, that's your membership. It's about showing total commitment. You get to that stage of covering yourself and you become quite firmly one of them. So if ever there was an us and them place, it's jail. So who are you? Are you us or are you them?
All my tattoos I have on my body, and I'm not ashamed of them. I've got them all over here. Got them all over here, all over my back, all up my legs. Tattoos like these. The fist that represents the best of them all.
1980 was the first time I put a mark on my face. It was mongrel mob on top of my forehead. I didn't see anyone really with tattoos on their faces, not that much, not with gang emblems. You had to be intimidating. Evil, in some words say. And they didn't want to muck you around. Yeah, well, the reaction I got was just freakiness. And they just left me alone. They thought I was getting too far out there. But it's helped me. And I give them my thanks to my tattoos to make me different.
Shane, Robert and Stan all serve sentences in both Mount Eden and Paremoremo prisons.
I went in there as a 9.5 stone 17-year-old and realised that I was a little boy in a place with a whole lot of giants. I didn't have a crew or anything, I didn't have any form of protection, so I had to make sure that I never got myself into a bad situation. Most people join gangs in jail because that becomes their family. There's that whole element of protection, of having someone to watch your back.
I was 20 and I was on my way up to Mount Eden prison. I remember just about shitting myself. Well, you know, you were moving from boys up to men. You were playing in a men's world now. So a lot of us ended up moving from tattoos from sides to black power tattoos all over the place. Now we've got what we've always wanted, bro. The biggest family that you ever fucking seen. So don't fuck with us.
Hastings is where the mongrel mob started. And all my uncles, whānau, the whole lot, everywhere I looked was just mongrel mob. No, nothing else, just mob. And when I turned 15 years of age, I had my uncle, Captain Blood. He ended up telling me that I had to join because I was of age. And when I went to jail, he asked me where I come from. I said Hastings. They stuck me in with a bunch of red people. So I had no choice. They already told me where I was meant to be. So the system guided me.
Robert and Stan began tattooing themselves while in Borstals and youth training centres. Stan was raised in environments surrounded by gangs, but Robert came from a violent and abusive family.
I remember the first time I did get into trouble. I pleaded guilty to something that I didn't do. And the only reason I pleaded guilty to that is I'd found out that if I ever went to a boys' home or another place I could go to without my father having to harm me or hurt me. My first stint in a boys' home was around about 1970. I managed to meet about another 30 boys that were going through exactly the same thing I was going through. And none of us wanted to go home. None of us.
The original New Zealand prison tattoos were influenced by Navy styles, doves, mermaids and lost loves. This was in the 50s and 60s, and the offenders were the young hotheads from the bodgies and milk bar gangs. But in the 70s, that changed, as a huge wave of people moved into the cities. As some of them clashed with the establishment, a new type of inmate began filling up the cells. It was this new class of prisoner that created a unique style of tattoo.
I've seen it change over the years, because at one stage the only tattooing that was done in prisons was around marking the length of time that you had been in prison, and it tended to be signified by teardrops from the corner of the eye, and for each teardrop it meant that was one lag you'd done.
In the 70s it was rebellion tattoos and us young kids making a statement.
The new style of tattoos were dark and heavy and covered the entire hand and forearm in ink, called a glove or sleeve.
Well, the history of the glove goes right back to the 70s and 80s, and that's part of where you've been, your journey on the inside. It's said more than a teardrop or even a gang name, gang emblem. It keeps the person strong on the inside. You want to be part of that culture, part of their glove culture, their jail culture. You don't want to be left out, because if you're left out, you're on your own.
These large tattoos were done with a single needle or sharpened piece of wire attached to a matchstick with cotton. These tattoos were done one dot at a time over weeks and weeks.
By the time I turned 15, 16, I ended up in Waikeria, Borstal, and I ended up doing tattooings on myself. In Waikeria, Borstal, we have badges of honour. So we had a glove.
There were 23 of us that decided that we would get a full-hand boob glove to celebrate that we were the last ever known Borstal training fellows in New Zealand.
In the 1980s, with ethnic gangs growing and prison populations increasing, gang insignia started to dominate prison tattoos.
In the 80s, bro, it was about gang members, bro, and gang affiliation, sort of things like that.
What you're getting is people are actually marking themselves in a way that signifies either gang involvement or thumbing their nose at society in general. So you have a variety of different types of tattooing that is going on.
Then these ones here, 1980s, Mount Eden. Most of it's all 70s and 80s, eh? Got stabbed here.
I joined a gang in a way, and it was the Parry Comrades. So this is the Parry tattoo. It's two fists breaking the chains. Then there's the Mount Eden tattoo, where it's two fists holding bars around a brick wall, because Mount Eden has the old bricks. And only certain people recognise that. So when I used to ride around a lot, you know, in singlets and stuff, and every policeman would notice it, and every person who's been in Parry. And to anyone else, it was nothing. It was just a scribble on my arm. It was about being anti the system, anti everything. In there's only one real enemy, and they're the ones wearing the green that locks the door. So it's about solidarity, having that solidarity against the system, because the system would constantly use divide and rule.
The expression to art was to rebel. So anything that looked horrible looked good to us. There's a thing in there called NZPD. Underneath, if you ever look, that's a pig with a hat on. Fuck the New Zealand Police Department.
I was a violent person that hated the system. I didn't hate people. Hated the blue policemen and the green turnkeys, because they were taking my privileges away from me.
You know, we were there because, fuck, we didn't fucking like anything, bro. We were there because the court sent us, so fuck that. We were there because the cops sent us there, you know, so fuck that. Bro, we were tattooing our bodies. Why? Because they all fucking hated it. the more we got on, the better it was.
When you can have something to do that leaves a lifetime mark that they can't take off you and that pisses off the screws, even better.
The early prison tattoos were made using a matchstick and a single needle. The method was crude and meant the ink was applied unevenly and at different depths in the skin. Despite this, the prisoners managed to create intricate and complex designs, sometimes covering their entire back, throat, hands and arms.
In the early days, the equipment they were using, it must have been quite painful, because I know myself, when I was in the Navy, that the tattoos I was getting then, they were done with proper machines, and it just felt like running a hot needle over your arm, you know, nothing to it. But these guys, the equipment they were using, like, you know, attaching a needle to a piece of wood sort of style and hammering away, it must have been quite painful.
All my tattoos I have on my body, these were all done in jail with single needles, no machines. And I can tell you the honest truth, they were all done in pain.
The biggest hurdle the inmates faced was getting a supply of ink in the heavily controlled prison environment. Indian ink was preferred, but difficult to source, so the inmates found ways to create their own.
What we did is we used to get the boot like this, melt all the rubber off it.
Burn it, float it down until it gets into a powder form, add a bit of water or piss, doesn't really matter which, stir it up to an ink form and just go back and forth going do.
In the 1980s, tattooing methods in prisons changed again, thanks to the development of the cassette player.
You're allowed a toothbrush, you're allowed a pen, and you're allowed a tape recorder, and that's all you need.
Pull a tape deck to bits, pull the motor out of the back of it, grab hold of my toothbrush, melt it and bend it over, get the shaft out of a pen, go down to the sewing room, get a needle out, and voila, you've got yourself a tattooing machine.
Making a tattoo gun or using some type of implement to actually tattoo is quite ingenious with some of the stuff that they actually do. This is one of the more crude apparatus that is used, and it's probably the easiest one to make, and that is the wire from the inside spring of a ballpoint pen can be inserted into the actual refill of the pen. They would dip it in the ink, do the tattoo, and as you could imagine, it'd be a very crude outcome. This is a more sophisticated model of a tattooing gun with an oscillating motor in it from either a CD player or a tape deck that actually pushes the needle up and down. The prisoners would have heated and bent a plastic knife or fork, wrap it around there so that it's got a stable base, and the needle part or the sharp part protrudes from there. This one here is particularly good as it's got a switch on it that they've made from a razor blade, and by squeezing it you actually make the contacts. The power source is from just ordinary AA batteries. If you think about the type of thought process and the type of skills that have gone into doing this, and if that was applied in a positive way, these people have a heck of a lot of potential.
A lot of the tattooing would be done in the yard, so you had groups of people standing around in one place for a long period of time. You'd contact the guys inside, get them to send someone out. You used to look for the guys that would be walking around the place, and they'd suddenly be walking around with their sleeves rolled down. Why has he got his sleeves rolled down?
I used to wear this hat and it used to go round and round and round in my head. And every part where it was going, I was getting tattooed. So by the time they realised what was happening, it was already done, even though it took 3 months.
The gun's going, we have cracking jokes and stuff, and our lookout is cracking the most jokes of all. The screw who was doing cell check managed to walk all the way down the corridor without getting noticed, got right behind our lookout, and he was standing there, and our lookout was still talking away to us, whilst me, the person getting tattooed, and the tattooers were all looking at the screw. So by then, the This guy, Lee, turns around, realised there's a screw. And you know, it was so funny that everyone laughed, including the screw. He took the gun, said, okay, I won't charge you, I'll just take the gun, stop right now. By the time we was at the end of the hall, we had out the second gun and we were finishing it off.
Because tattooing is illegal in New Zealand prisons, the authorities tried to stamp it out by searching cells and confiscating the machines.
Could take anything up to an hour to do a good search in a cell. Look at everything, you move everything, go through all the books, and the number of people that used to hollow out a Bible, believe it or not, and hide a tattoo machine in there. It wasn't often that you found the complete machine in one place. They could dismantle them, and you know, one guy'd carry one part and another guy'd carry another part. They're quite resourceful in the way they build their equipment and where they hide it and how they go about hiding it. It becomes quite interesting after a while.
You know, you'd be naive not to accept that there are tattoos done in prison, but they're not doing it all over the place and wherever they like. It's sort of done secretively as much as it possibly can, and as soon as we are aware that something like that is happening, then there are consequences for those actions.
The maximum they can be given by the superintendent is 14 days cell confinement and 28 days loss of privileges. These guys, no big deal. Just another day in the office.
But most of us that do tattoos in jail, we already know the outcome, eh? We're going to get 28 days OPs off privileges, no watching TV, locked up at 5 o'clock, and a week down the pound. That's 23-hour lockup, one hour in an exercise yard, 3 smokes a day, and back to normal. So everything's back to normal, eh?
We all knew we were going to get caught because there was always inspections every day. For them to lock us down in isolation and for them to take our privileges away, to a lot of us it was a joke. We had it taken away from the abuse our fathers gave us, so isolating us was nothing. We were used to it. I think eventually the officers knew that they couldn't stop it, and in the end a lot of them, I suppose if they could they'd turn a blind eye, but the rules and regulations of prisons and institutions said it was a no-no.
Health and safety is the main reason. The infections they can get can be quite horrendous at times. You've got to keep them moist while they're settling in and that, and they haven't got access to this stuff, and if they go to medical to get it, they're giving themselves up and they're not going to do that.
The health risks are incredible because all kinds of stuff can be transmitted in that. So, you know, the risk of transmitting disease, particularly hepatitis C, is extremely high. The other thing is that the hepatitis C virus can be in the ink, so they may well sterilise the needle or think they have, and then immediately contaminate it again if they're tattooing somebody else. So you can see how it's a real issue in prison.
I don't think you'd ever stop it short of having a 24-hour watch on everybody. But no, basically if they want to get a tattoo, they'll get one way or another.
Prisons act as a training ground for tattooists. For the good ones, it becomes a way to earn currency and status. But not all of them are skilled.
There was a large amount of tattooists at all times. Some of them really good, some of them really bad. A lot of people would practice on each other. I knew a lot of really bad tattooists in jail that have got some good skills now. And then there's others that pick up nicknames like Digger and Butcher and the Panel Beater. This fella put Jailbird on him. Big Jailbird, I think it was on his chest or on his thigh. Big Jailbird. They had the A and I around the wrong way. And because jail, J-A-I-L, you know, no wonder you in here, hey, you know, both you and the tattoos, you can't spell jail. You know, simple things, you know, because again, numeracy, literacy, not a strong point.
You relied on hopefully this fellow was good. You'd heard he was good. So you're just sitting down there praying he's good, you know what I mean? So it was really basically down to this thing called brotherhood, you know? I trust you. Oh, well, I wouldn't send you there if I didn't. So that's how tattooing was done.
The person I trusted the most was the person I was teaching. So he had the knowledge, but he was slow. So I trusted him because he was slow. I was tattooing him at the same time as payment. So I was teaching him how to speed up in tattooing and just taught him all the basics that I knew. He ended up becoming a professional tattooist in the end. So that was quite good. He got a payment out of it and he enjoyed it.
It was one of those currencies that was very hard to stop anyone bringing in. You know, when you're talking about money or drugs or other sort of contraband, that all has to come through a door. But tattooing is just there.
And you got gangs that actually steal tattooists, and they only tattoo them. If there's a market for you, or we're going to take you and we're going to sell you. So they make money off them, but they pay him at the same time. So people are always getting something going. They're not just there for friendship. We're all there to make a living.
When you first got put in there, it was a lot of young guys wanting something that makes them stand out. You know, a lot of gang stuff. They sort of respect the art and the other artists in there as well. You're supplied with anything you need. They know you're a good artist and they pretty well leave you alone.
I don't know, if you're the man in the prison, man, you're the man. You'll be busy from the time you step in that door to the time you step out of it. I wasn't making a habit of going to jail, of course. Hey, but then a lot of the work I did see come out of jail and done by different artists, oh, beautiful, bro. And for the, you know, the gear they used, oh, amazing what some of the fellas did with a single needle on those. Detail to the max. You know, and it started going towards that type of thing, on backs, on arms, you had dragons and all that type of thing. They started going out of the skulls and, you know, and bloody chain and ball and shovel and a pick, that type of thing. Getting into professional machines and getting into the professional scene of tattooing. I'm not saying we're professional, not by any sense of the imagination, but, you know, we've learnt a lot in 30 years, eh?
Because they spent so much of their lives in various jails and institutions, for Stan, Shane and Robert, jail became home. They didn't consider life after prison when getting their tattoos.
Jail was home to us. Jail was our house, jail was our roof, jail was our school. Jail was everything.
I got to that place where it was home, and thoughts of getting out were very distant. And thoughts of how, you know, how people would take me on the outside we weren't even thought of, because it was just too far away to even think of. There was no real future planning. There was never ever really a thought of, I'm going to have a different life after this. It was, you know, it was just so easy to buy into that whole thinking of nothing's ever going to change. You know, even when I get out, these are all going to be my mates, and we're still going to be, this is the same conversations we're going to have, because there isn't really an option for, or a chance to see different takes on things, different world views. Hey, you've got the inmates you live with and the staff. And both of those views are, you'll be back, boy. You'll be back. This is your lot for the rest of your life.
The privilege about being in jail that I think living in one nation in jail, we learn about the rules of life. Out here, you don't get taught that. You have to go through it the slow way. We're lucky that we learn it fast.
I was still a youngster, maybe 19, 20 years old. I come out to the visits wearing a singlet to show off my tattoos, because, you know, I got some too. My mum walked up to me and slapped me really hard in the face, and the whole visiting room stopped because it was quite a loud noise. You know, first of all, there was the embarrassment of being slapped by your mother in the visiting room at Perry. You know, so that was a little bit of the running joke when I got back to the wing. I was just, boo, did you get beaten up by your mum? But at the same time, even though they're all these big bad gang members, they all understood, it's your mum. What you gonna do? But she did make the point, and I'm glad she did, because she reminded me that you're not going to be here forever. And do you really want to have your face covered like that? You might be normal in here, in backwards world, but we want you back.
Society doesn't want us out here. They find us a threat to the good order and conduct of Aotearoa New Zealand. You love to be out there with people, you love to be with your whānau, you love to do this, but you can't, because society says you're not allowed there. We don't want you here. I'm not even allowed pubs. Pubs don't recognise the tattoos that I got on me as culture.
Some of the harmful effects of being tattooed when you're in prison is that they're not always good tattoos, like not always well done, and certainly some of the insignia is of a nature that once you're back in the community, it sends this message. So it really, really does impact on career prospects. It impacts on fronting up to apply for a loan. As much as people don't want, I'm sure, to exercise any prejudice when they see that, human nature is such that the bank manager be thinking twice before giving it to him. It's very clear from research that's done that people are less likely to reoffend if they're working. So if they have something at all to do with them that stops them from getting a job, and we can actually change that to have them a better chance of getting a job, then I'm all for it.
Now I'm 47 years old. I can't get a job. No one hires people with tattoos. You don't get a job when you got a record like mine.
When I got out, I was even isolated amongst the gang because of my Ta Moko. Because it was different than theirs. It was too hardcore. I'm
glad that I still look like this. And I may not be the tidiest, but I can still cash a check. I don't get pulled over by every policeman that sees me, only half of them.
If I go from Henderson to the city, I'll probably get pulled over at least about 5 or 6 times.
Once you put Mungo Mob or black power on your face, then even when you pull out of the gang when you're 50 years old, it's still there. Most of this Ta Moko in jail started before we even knew about laser removal, so there was never ever the thought that, oh well, if I change my mind in the future I can take it off. It was always to the bitter end.
Today, with the option of laser removal treatment, many people are removing their tattoos to help reintegrate into society. The Marriner Community Health Trust is one clinic, which offers its services to many, including ex-prisoners.
The people that arrive in this tattoo removal clinic vary from ages 12 right through to 80, male and female, and tattoos on all different parts of their body, no specific part, all over the show. One of our programs is called Fresh Start, and that's designed to remove tattoos, visible tattoos from people to enable them to get back into the workplace. We do that low cost to help people, whether they be on the benefit, in prison, whatever their circumstances are.
Removing prison tattoos is difficult. The depth of the ink in the skin can vary considerably across the tattoo. Because the inmates used everything from Indian ink to shoe polish and boot rubber, the removal process is very complex. Despite this, Colin's work can create some dramatic results and have a meaningful impact in someone's life.
When we set this clinic up in 1998, we had a lady come to us with tattoos over her lower arms, and they were unusual tattoos. They weren't typical gang tattoos. They weren't amateur tattoos like love and hate. The lady said that she'd been gang raped, and each member who gang raped her tattooed his initials on her body. Cleaned all the skin up, and she's now been working for many, many years out in the public health system, helping other people with whatever problems they may have in the health system. Been a very successful lady, and one of our big success stories, I believe.
Colin's work is meant to give people a second chance. However, removing gang and prison tattoos provides particular challenges.
Typically gang tattoos are highly visible, hands, fingers, face, neck. Now those parts of the body are very sensitive. They tend to be bony parts of the body with lots of nerves and very, very painful to remove a tattoo.
For me, getting my tattoos removed, I'm just I don't know how to put it, just excited. Putting the bulldog on my neck was part of the gang code for me. Fuck, I was proud of it. Still am now. But I'm getting on now and I want to just remove it so I can be a little bit more respectful, giving myself a job. Prove to my family I'm going to come out and stay out.
Now, under your skin, tattoos are just a whole lot of ink particles joined together in whatever shape you put them in, right? The reason the ink stays in the body is that ink particles are really big compared to your white blood cells, the ones that get rid of foreign things in your body. A laser is just a very bright, very fast light. The light goes through the skin, it hits an ink particle and it makes a clicking noise like that. What it's doing is exploding each individual ink particle under your skin into little pieces. And then your white blood cells can surround it, get it out of your body. Getting them off will sting.
These are probably about over 20 years old. This is mainly all done in jail through different variety of ink, Indian ink and the soles of a boot.
Now I've had a look at your medical conditions and everything is fine with that. Any questions before we start?
No, let's do it.
Okay, if you want to stop, you say stop. Here we go.
I can feel it. Feel the ice like hot fat.
Oh, it does sting, doesn't it?
Looks pretty good through the glasses. Looks like it's going away.
Okay, hold on.
I feel like a poached egg's on top of my hand. I just want to put it under some cold water. Oh, man.
Okay, last little. Okay, you're done. As I explained earlier, you've got redness around the areas we've treated, that's normal. Yep. The whiteness is just some burnt here on the surface of the skin, that washes off. Okay, that's normal as well. It appears to have gone away completely. It is hidden by swelling, but the fading has already started. You won't notice any fading for maybe a week or so, and it continues on for 6 weeks.
Feel a lot better. Feel a lot better. It's a start. It's something I've lived with all my life, and just watching it and seeing it go from the laser treatment there, I just feel a lot different. I'm happy. The first step to the new me. Yeah.
The evolution of tattooing in New Zealand, especially within the jails, has taken on more of a Māori element as those designs and that become more prevalent within the community too. 20 years ago there was 1 or 2 places around the country doing Ta Moko, doing Māori Ta Moko. Now there'll be 100. Jail tattoos very much are for one specific demographic in the community, but whereas Ta Moko can cross many more barriers.
There was actually the gangs that really started the renaissance of Moko, I reckon. It started going to the face. People started sitting up and taking notice.
The power of inmates that's brought our Ta Moko back, they brought it back to our culture, was the power of the inmates and of a strong culture of gangs.
One day, one of my bros He wanted Ta Moko my face in Māori. Told him, my bro, I can't, because that's culture, total culture. Well, I'm Pākehā and I'm Māori. Pākehās, they do their heads, but don't do their faces. Māoris do their faces and don't do their heads. Oh, gee, and I was going to create my own. The most precious thing you got on your body is your head. Hey, I draw my face. And that's the ultimate happiness. And I don't worry about anyone else. This is what I see what beauty is.
I still want one more tattoo done on my body. One more tattoo. I want a real tattoo, not a make-believe tattoo or tattoos that come from some other place that I have to explain myself. I want to be proud as a Māori, so I want a Ta Moko on my face.
Robert's decision to put his past life behind him and to acknowledge this change with a full facial moko has led him to Ta Moko expert Mark Kopua. Mark helps Robert prepare for the upcoming 6-hour session.
Yeah, now Mark, I would be honoured that you put this Ta Moko on my face. I want, and I know I can be, a different man.
To do that is through moko, is to make it permanent.
As Robert gets his final tattoo done, the culture of prison tattooing continues with the next generation.
Some of the young kids we're seeing now, as young as 13, 14, are already in the prison system. They're not held in like a Parimorimo or Mount Eden situation, they're held in the youth justice system. Lately, we've been seeing in the last half dozen years or so, more influence out of California, the west coast of America, and gangs like Bloods, Crips, and in New Zealand now the Killer Bees.
Yeah, I'm Isaac Popolo, born and raised in Newtown. The difference between old school and, new school, however you call it, the upcoming generation today is we have our patches on our skins, not on our back.
This generation, they do wear their insignia on their arms or somewhere in their bodies, or there's a mark on their body where it identifies you with who you belong to.
It's not visible, it's all under covers. So again, if someone was to meet me, they wouldn't know I'm a Killer Bee, because I wouldn't approach them in that sort of manner,
Part of it is because they don't want to draw too much attention to the police or anybody, because they don't want anybody to know what they do. And so they want to keep things low-key. The low-key it is, the better it is. Back in the days, we wanted to be seen, and they don't have to broadcast it like we used to do. We like ours big, bright, bold, and visible.
We got our patches on our skins, and it's not to let everyone out there know that you're a patch member, but yeah, it's pretty much a marking for yourself,
I had my childhood taken away from me. I feel that because I didn't have that, I had a burden of hate. And I can tell you from now that life is going to be totally different.
After 6 physically challenging hours, and in one sitting, Robert's Ta Moko is complete.
Thanks for making me a new man, Mark. I won't let you down.
Things have changed now for the ethnic gangs around they're wanting to be aligned more with things Māori. That wasn't the start. At the start, it was just about being in your face.
Now I'm 50 years of age, so I've got to keep changing, migrating into a better person than what I was, but still using what I look like from the past. I'm not a freak. I'm just a person that believes in the old ways, but bring it into modern society. I just do what I have to do by using my Ta Moko for the right reasons. I don't go around hassling people. I try using it to steer people away from being like me. So I go around helping a lot of young people out west here, underprivileged people, to understand that life is good for them, eh?
When I got released, I was sent to a halfway house, told to do whatever they told me to do, and given $350. And that was my release plan after 10 years in jail. I've been back to Pāremoremo just in passing 20 times, maybe over the last 10 years, and stopped and looked at the place where I used to be. And it makes the sun brighter and the grass greener and the ice cream sweeter. It's good for me to reflect back, just to keeps me appreciating things that are in the present now.
For me to get a Ta Moko on my face is to get rid of the past that I lived. I found one future when I went to jail all my life, carvings. First time I ever learned about carving was from an English sculpture. He was up at Marriner prison with me. And then I slowly got into it. And when I got out of jail, I was amazed to know that people out here were still interested in people doing it. I dedicate a lot of my time to kids, teenagers and adults. I teach young kids how to draw and how to carve because they like it. We're learning to change. It's time to participate with our grandkids.